Linux Out Loud is firing up our mics, connecting those headphones as we prepare to get rowdy. I'm Matt, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts, Wendy and Nate. We're three friends sitting around a virtual table talking Linux, open source, tech, gaming, and everything in between. We keep the banner friendly, the conversation somewhat on topic, and have fun doing it. This week, we're spouting off about content creators going Linux. Let's get into episode 110. While we're out and about exploring the whole wide world, Wendy, it sounds like you are exploring some of the Linuxness at Worlds.
Yes, I did. I got so excited because I got to see Linux in the wild at Worlds. So they have, and I think they call it an innovation fair or something, down on one of the lower levels, where they have some different businesses and other things there. So NASA was there, Qualcomm was there, some other like really cool different places you get to go talk to. And one of the little booths was a International Space Station, and it was adjusting and moving to how it was actually in space. And at the time that me and one of my co-mentors had walked up to it, it wasn't currently working, you know, it had a disconnect or whatever. And the one guy's like, well, let me see if I can get it. So he kind of closes down the one window, and you can tell it's running Raspbian on a Raspberry Pi. There's a Linux terminal open, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, I didn't give a crap about the fact that like he was reconnecting it to the ISS. I'm like, that is a Linux terminal, and now I'm giddy, and my week's been made.
Do you know which Pi it was? Was like a 3,
I'm not
4,
entirely
5?
sure. They had that somewhere tucked away, but I did find an old news story from RaspberryPi.com that's talking about them building this and how it all works and that kind of thing. So I will link it down inside the show notes so you can check it out, read about it. It was cool, like when he got it reconnected and you can see all the fins move back to where they were. And he's like, yeah, this looks like it's in the configuration of it's in the dark side in its orbit around the Earth, and then he pops up a window that actually shows you where it is on the globe inside the shadow, and he was like, yep, I was right. So it's kind of a cool project. It was a fun thing to see. We don't really get to see Linux a whole lot as far as FTC goes, because they don't have their computers or whatever up, like the driver stations that you've got there in FRC. Of course, technically, it's all running on Android, and I can't wait for that to go away here in a few years when it's all going to be run supposedly off a Raspberry Pi, and we've got some more coding options as far as that goes. But it was fun. I got to see Linux in the wild while I was in Texas, and that's always fun, right? Those little moments of like, I see Linux there.
Well, according to the article, based on the pictures, assuming they haven't changed anything, it looks like a Pi 3.
Which would make sense, because this was written in 2020, so that would make sense for it to be a Pi 3.
That's neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. Space, it is the final frontier.
Well, they do run Linux in space, so it'll make sense for that communication on what's going on to also be running on Linux, right? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now, Nate, did you upgrade your framework, or did you upgrade a framework for work, and how did that go?
My framework. So I bought my framework about 2 years ago, and I've been nothing but ecstatic about it. It's really been the most fantastical, pick your flavor of boisterous words to shove in their laptop I've ever used. I've actually never been so happy with a laptop because it's so easy to work on, to mess with. I've done some I've already, I've broken the one of the CPU coolers already once. But anyway, that's fine. That was a while ago. You can see that article on PewPiePenguin.com. Not very exciting, but just, it was a tale of tech troubles. Anyway, so here's what it boils down to. I needed a main board for a project of mine. It's something I've been meaning to do now for years, and I need to buckle down and I need to get a bunch of things done this year, just kind of like just knock them out, just be done with them. And it's something I've wanted to do, and which is basically I got a shell of a Macintosh Classic that's dead, and I would turn into a framework Tosh, or I originally was going to call it OpenSUSE Tosh or SUSE Tosh, but I can't really use that, and so I would just, whatever. I still love my OpenSUSE though. That'll never go away. That'll never change. Anyway, so I got the, let me back up here. Framework released a bunch of new AMD boards, kind of pricey, and Matt, Wendy, you know me, I am so cheap. If I were to drop a penny out of my pocket, I would bend down so quick to pick that up, it would hit me in the back of the head. So I didn't want to spend any money unnecessarily. And also I want to make sure I had 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports because just the way I work. And so I went, instead of the AMD, I went with the Core Ultra 7 155H. And they also dropped the prices of those because of releasing the new boards. So it works out great for me.
Oh, wow.
So I need a new main board anyway. So if I was going to buy I needed a main board. So I could have probably gotten like a 11th generation something, and then I would have used it or whatever. Or I thought the better option was essentially to get myself a new main board, and then I can hand me down my main board to my son. So he has an 11th generation i7, so he'll get then my 13th generation i7, the 1360p, which would be a massive upgrade for him, performance-wise, CPU, and I think maybe GPU too. I don't know if there's anything different with the XE graphics. Matt would probably know. I don't. But anyway, so he'll get a massive upgrade, and that'll be great for him because he likes to game on his framework a little bit. And when my Steam Deck and now my 1X player, if it doesn't get stolen. So, kids, I love them. Anyway, so I put that in there, and actually, from a mechanical perspective, putting the new main board in there was actually really easy. The only fiddly part that I felt was like kind of like, was the audio board on the side that has your audio jack. So messing that up wouldn't have been the end of the world because you can always buy another part. But that was the only part that was fiddly because I had like a little thing. So I had to, use my little framework tool to kind of, pick that little latch up, pull out the ribbon cable. That was the only part that was just kind of a little, fiddly. But they do have the little tabs on there to make it easy to put in. So they've actually taken the time to think about these things and make it easy to, easier to work in, I should say. So I put that in there. I got 64 gig of RAM because I'm not going to downgrade, and maxing out to 96 or something like that was just a little bit too, a little too pricey for the DDR5. So that 64 is fine. I don't really push the 64 beyond that. I don't think I've ever pushed it beyond 50 or much beyond 50 gig, even running multiple VMs. So anyway, the only issues I had with it was initially, when booting it up, Discover had some firmware updates that it required. I ran those firmware updates, and then all of a sudden, not all my screens came back on. So I had I could either have one side of it, either one Thunderbolt port or the other Thunderbolt port, and all these can't enumerate USB device and all these errors. What I ended up having to do was just reboot the machine without anything plugged into it. And it took me a while to figure this out, essentially, because I'm slow. And so I rebooted the machine with nothing plugged into it. And then I think it then finally finished pushing all the firmware to the different controllers, because there's multiple controllers on board. And so then I think it finally finished those updates. I remember reading somewhere that when you have it plugged in and you do the updates, it doesn't do the updates on there. It has to shuffle them around essentially to make sure everything's updated. So anyway,
okay.
I think I could be wrong on that. So if somebody knows better, let me know. But anyway, it's fine now. I don't have any of these strange errors. The package for controlling the RGB lights though, there's actually, so the power light on the framework is actually an RGB light, and so you can actually change the color of it. So I made mine green because, well,
because of course
I like Fedora. I mean, OpenSUSE. And anyway, but now with the new main board, the firmware has changed, or the controller changed a little bit. So I guess something is not, I can't communicate with it the same way. So I got to figure that out again. But anyway, that's really my only hang up is I can't change the color of that right now, but it performs a lot better. When I plug it in to bring up all the screens, it's almost instantaneous now. There isn't a lag like there was before, which wasn't a big deal.
Nice.
When plugging in screens, but it's almost instantaneous. I also, I have now a birthday present all set aside for somebody because the birthday's coming up. So now my son's going to get that car. So that solves that, the big gift. He's excited about it. He already knows what it is. Santa Cubicle Nate's going to come through for his birthday. And I really haven't tested the graphics piece of it out really yet. I haven't had time to do that. I mean, I just did this on Sunday. So,
okay. Yeah.
So it's been like day 2 with the new main board and I'm very happy. So, I have a framework project on the way. I've got to do some design work. I was going to try and use FreeCAD again, but when I played with it, because with version 1 of FreeCAD, it didn't really work out. What I wanted to do as far as the parametric, it still just isn't quite right. So I'll be using Onshape again for my next project. And also something very cool that came down, it's framework related, is there's a new kernel module that just kind of came down in OpenSUSE where I can also in Plasma, the power, the energy settings, power management, in the advanced power management settings. I wrote an article of this on PewPiePenguin.com, how to do this, or what installed rather. And I'm now able to set the charge level of my battery right there in Plasma. So you don't have to go to you have to go into the BIOS settings to do that. So because I'm docked most of the time, like I'm a digital nomad, but I generally plug in because I set up a myriad of screens whenever I'm working. So I'm docked most of the time. So it makes more sense just to not overcharge my battery, get a little more life out of it this time, since I did replace my battery once already. And that's nice that they have that control now exposed in Linux, or at least in Tumbleweed. Maybe it was exposed elsewhere, but that's another thing. And just as an aside, I did also learn of a way of so sometimes when Plasma turns off the screens, like automatically for power saving, when they come back on, some of the power management, like the brightness controls, will disappear for some screens. Not the main screen and not like a display link screen, but like my other screens, I have to like reset the power management in Plasma. So probably needs to have a bug report written on that one. I might do that yet. But anyway, there's a really easy command to just basically restart that service and then everything works fine. But anyway, very excited. I'm very happy with my framework. It's like I got a brand new computer, only sort of, and got a little more performance. Although I wasn't really pushing it all that much last time, but now I have a little bit more overhead. So I guess from what I understand, based on the reading and like take into account the different, like the increased efficiency and power usage, this CPU, I think it has 22 cores. I'm not sure what the breakdown is offhand of the efficiency versus non, but so this should actually extend my battery life 10 to 15% essentially. So I should get another hour, maybe hour and a half of battery life out of it. And then, but if I am doing any gaming on battery, I will have less battery life because it can push more cores to it. So there is that. But considering the type of gaming I do, I don't think it'll matter.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be too big of the deal. I know we've actually been looking at the 12 because they just released a 12-inch model
yes.
not too long ago. So yep. The team has actually been looking at the 12. Me and one of the FTC members were talking about these frameworks, showing the one gal who makes a lot of the financial decisions where the money goes. And we're like, look at these laptops. Aren't they so cool? Wouldn't it be awesome if we got these ones because we could maintain them for years and years to come? And she's like, yeah, actually, I do really like that. So I need to get a hold of someone at Framework and I need to work on getting us some more grants so we can buy laptops. But we've got her all in on getting the team Framework laptops to use for camps and stuff. Super excited.
And those 12s are designed for high schoolers, so they have built-in bumpers and everything else, so they can take a little more abuse. They're designed to be able to take more abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly what we need for the use case they're going to have, and I'm actually quite excited. Like I said, I'm not necessarily excited about going and trekking down funds in order to make that happen, but I do like the idea of being able to upgrade them, keep them running for as long as possible. So I'm glad that this was a fairly smooth update. for you, and it's definitely something that we'll keep in mind. Not that these will ever be docked. I don't think they'll ever be docked. But I do like the idea of being able to set some of those power management settings, because they're typically always on power too. Typically where we hold a camp, so we've got access to power so that their robot can be charging and their laptop can be charging. Though with these, they might actually be able to disconnect. With some of the current laptops that we're using right now, they can't. They can't leave the charger at all. So they're
because the batteries are
almost a laptop. Yeah.
The batteries are cooked, as the kids would say. They're
Very
cooked.
much so.
I like that term, by the way, cooked. Yeah, I think the 12s would be great, especially for that use case. I hope hope that works out. That'd be splendiferous for sure. So speaking of abuse, Matt, you've decided to abuse your bank account or wallet some more. You got some new hardware.
Most definitely.
Yet again. So I'm actually now wondering who has spent more this year. I think what we should do is before the next show, we should probably we might need to tally it up.
Oh, I got a running tally already. Trust me.
So is that running tally like taking out what you've sold stuff for, or is this just the running tally of how much you've spent?
Running tally of what I've spent. I already have a separate one for what I've actually taken in for stuff I've
spent.
My wallet and bank account would be crying right now. Not gonna lie, my credit cards have been getting a workout that I don't like using, but sometimes some things got to pay for some things. I have. I don't even know where to start. So initially, I'd actually started with the CMF Watch Pro 2, which is CMF is Nothing Phone's kind of budget brand, even though they make budget devices anyway. Nothing Phone, or Nothing as the name of the company, is run by Carl Pei, who is one of the founders of OnePlus. So for those that want to know the pedigree of the devices, so they concentrate on aesthetics and performance, and it's very kind of in that direction, which is cool because it's rare to see a tuned version of Android. They also give 3 years of support on all their devices, which I can also appreciate. So I bought this for some health stuff. It was $59. So for a smartwatch, super cheap. A lot of stuff attached to it. Bought that, and I was on the wait list for when the CMF Phone 2 came out, or the Nothing Phone 3 or 3A, or any of their phones, the next phones came out. My Unihertz Titan has taken quite a few tumbles, and we'll put it that way, while a beefy and beastly phone. It is functional, but I can tell that certain things don't quite work the way they should.
Right.
It's like the digitizer starts to kind of go on vacation from time to time, at least with my older phones. Is that kind of the same what you're experiencing?
No. So like the fingerprint sensor, as an example, is actually, it's not in screen, it's above on the keyboard because it's a keyboard phone. Sometimes it's finicky, like you'll be typing and sometimes it thinks it's reading your fingerprint. So one of the actions it does is it minimizes the current window you're in. So like if I'm in app typing something and it's like, oh, hey, just weird finicky stuff that happens as Android kind of ages out.
Yeah.
No, whatever. No big deal. I have the TCL phone that I still used as like a backup phone. I also have the Fairphone still, but the Fairphone, I know most people will tell me, why don't I just use that? Because that's my Ubuntu Touch phone. I'm waiting for the day that Ubuntu Touch is fully capable for me to replace it, and that is the device it's going to go on. I still actually keep daily. I'm in the beta channels for Ubuntu Touch on that device, so like I am constantly checking to see where we're at with that. Anyway, so the CMF Phone 2 came out, $279, 8 gigs of RAM, 120 hertz refresh rate, 256 gigs of storage, 2 terabyte SD card if you want it, Don't know about the headphone jack. I didn't really, at this point, I've Bluetooth pretty much everything. But like all that
so
stuff.
Modern. What's the matter with you? So modern. I would never Bluetooth all the things.
Yeah. So I bought that. That was $279, which for that kind of phone is not terrible. Then the Switch 2 was announced, and anybody who knows that I'm a gamer, just look behind me.
You game?
No, not at all.
Oh, I didn't think so.
That is all just props. I don't know what any of it means.
I don't either.
So, well, we know you don't, but that's the point. I got in line on, I think it was Best Buy's website, surprisingly, that I got a pre-order for Switch 2. So that was a $479 purchase or some weird amount. Ironically, the only reason I bought one is not because of the Switch 2 itself. It is literally so I can play Switch games on better hardware that I own physically.
Oh, really? I guess that makes sense.
It's like sticking a PS4 game in a PS5 and getting upscaling and certain other things that you'll get with that kind of stuff, because Switch 1 games are backwards compatible with the Switch 2. That's the only reason I bought it for me. So that was a $479 purchase.
No, wait, just do you know when that's going to show up?
According to Best Buy, it's supposed to be here on launch day, which would be the 5th of June, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see. I mean, it's Best Buy, so I'll take that with a grain of salt. But then I also spent another $450 on another mini PC. Woohoo!
Wow.
So
you got me beat.
So, in fairness to the mini PC, the mini PC is replacing a Alienware that I bought about 6 months ago for my dad, specifically when I went back up home to where I'm originally from. And I had left that system up there as a console for my parents to use because they have essentially crap internet at the time. And I mean, the system was over a decade old, so the fact that it still ran and played most of the games at that point, I was just more surprised than anything else. But that system kind of pooped out. So Maze Forbes popped up as a flash sale. It's a 11th gen i5, 32 gigs of RAM, and a terabyte SSD for $450 with an RTX 3060. I mean, but to the point where I'm going to get the flack about, oh, well, spent a lot of money. Yes, I also sold the MacBook, so I'm no longer a Mac OS user. Sold the MacBook, sold the RTX 4060 that I had that was just sitting because I replaced it with a 7800 XT for the custom build back there. So I might be in maybe the CMF phone for the most part. I mean, there's some other ancillary stuff that I have up that I'm still waiting for some finalization stuff on. But so I'm getting rid of stuff. I'm just replacing stuff in the same note. But in fairness, the phone, that was kind of a necessary kind of purchase because that was hey, this phone ain't really working much anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I totally get that. Magneto's struggling with the same thing on his current device, and he's only had his for just over a year. I guess it was a year in December. So
which one's he rocking
Magneto,
now?
Right now he's got a Motorola phone, and I can't remember the name of it. I might have to. I don't even know if they still have it available, but I know when I bought it, the Motorola Think phone. Okay, I remembered what it is. That's the one he's.
How is he breaking a ThinkPad's essential phone? Essentially,
he's Magneto. He actually did a heck of a lot better with the OnePlus. I think the OnePlus 9 lasted for 3 years for him before it started having major issues. Though I haven't been as happy with my OnePlus. What do I have? The
11?
12? Because I've had mine for just over a year as well too. So, like I said, I haven't been as happy with it. I've definitely had some battery issues, and I have hated the last update. And I don't know if that's something on the OnePlus side or if that's something on the Android side in general, because I'm not getting notifications because of battery saving crap that I didn't even turn on. So that's been a bit of an issue overall, but I don't know what to do for him.
Are you running stock on that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is currently stock.
Which must pain the heck out of you for that.
Very much so, but the 9 in general was such a beast in order to root and ROM. I think I'm gonna go with a Pixel phone next time, or just one in general that's easy to flash. So we'll see how it goes. I don't necessarily like the fact that the Pixels are relying on a lot of AI stuff. I'd rather have better hardware inside. But regardless, this last Think phone hasn't been great. I know he's been complaining about the antenna. So I am kind of curious when you get the CMF phone 2, like, what does that look like? Are you still getting good service? Is the service getting any better? Because he's comparing his work phone to his personal phone, and he's got places that the work phone is getting way more service than his personal phone, which can be a bit frustrating at times. So I'm curious. When will the phone arrive? Because didn't you say you just ordered it too?
I just ordered it this week, actually. I think it comes.
Okay.
I order it for pre-order, and I think that is the 7th, give or take, of May.
Okay.
Is when it ships, I believe.
And if I'm looking at these pictures correctly, it does look like with screws you can take the back off of it.
So the first one, the CMF phone, the original, you were able to take the phone backing off and replace like the back and all that stuff, not the battery.
Okay.
What that does is the way they've built it. There's a piece of plastic. There's like a molded piece of plastic for the new one that makes the old accessories still usable on the new phone.
Okay.
So the screw, so you still can't take out essentially the shell anymore. So you lose that ability. But there's certain abilities that you do get with that particular add-on that comes with I believe it comes with the device. So
okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, like I said, I'm interested to see because I've kind of actually enjoyed the CMF, smartwatch thing. It's been interesting because it doesn't run any Android stuff. It's its own thing. So,
all right, interesting, and it's run pretty smooth.
Yeah, Nate, you'll hate it because it's OLED.
So here's the thing. I think I've changed my mind on OLED a little bit. Just a little bit.
Why, Nate? Why?
I think that the technology is getting to the point now where it's not so bad, not as bad as it has been.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still too early for adoption for like screens, like laptop screens. I think it's still a little too early for that. But I think probably in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, I would say probably OLED might be on par with, in as far as like, now obviously the color is better and the brightness and the actual power. Technically, I think the power usage could be lower than LCD because you don't have all the layers of filtration. And so it's actually simpler. I think long term would be simpler manufacturing process will be simplified, I think, in time. But I don't think we're quite there yet. But maybe in a few years, assuming, things continue to progress as far as the development of OLED is concerned, because if you can get, because like right now, an LCD screen's like about 50,000 hour half-life. So, and then there's no risk of burn-in. But I have seen my share of LCDs that have like strange ghosting when they shut off, or even like when they go all black. I've noticed newer screens, like specifically like Lenovo's, I've noticed really, really bad screens on the business grade ones. So,
ooh.
Yeah, I mean, it's not awful, but I notice it and I don't like it. So, I think that I really think that in the future, I think OLED might be the way to go because also, just work with me here, Matt, work with me. I think if they get the pixel density right, you could probably use an OLED to give that same sort of look and feel as the old ray traced CRTs. If you remember,
get the screen
that is
flicker.
his goal.
I already know what he's the scan lines. The scan lines.
Yeah, well, not just scan lines, but like the ray trace. Like so, the old
no.
When they
I know what you mean.
Like oscilloscope. When they have basically the thing the anyway. I think the potential is there for some really cool things to come from it, because you could potentially just because of the way OLED is manufactured, you could make a domed screen and give that CRT look and feel with OLED in enough time. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. I think I could be wrong, but there is the potential for that.
There is cool potential. Kind of like seeing a bunch of content creators on YouTube becoming Linux users. That is kind of weird to see. Not gonna lie.
It'll never happen. Never happen.
Tell that to PewDiePie, who's one of the biggest content creators on the planet, with 110 million subscribers.
Never heard of him.
Well,
actually, recently, I really haven't heard of him until recently, honestly.
So, for those that don't know, PewDiePie, who most famously, for those that don't know, was a gaming live streamer that kind of blew up on around 2000, I'd say 14, 15, somewhere in that neighborhood, playing Five Nights at Freddy's and screaming his butt off at all the things, just being hyper hysterical about the screaming. It's just very kind of memey kind of screams, and, just whatever.
So what you're saying is, and I don't mean this disparagingly, because I have not done any research on this guy outside of the recent videos, he was everything I dislike about gaming YouTubers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
I guess he was surprised because he had done a video prior where it was an advertisement for a tech-related thing, and it brought up a terminal window. And people noticed the terminal
window. He was
window.
doing a hardware build. He was building his own PC the very first time. And that's where the terminal popped up for like all of maybe a second and a half.
And then at the end of the video, it was like another half second. People freeze framed it. And they're like, that's the Linux Mint logo for Cinnamon.
Right, yeah.
And so he's like, apparently people cared, is basically what he said, more or less, on a new video that he did where he kind of told people about why he kind of installed Linux on everything. And it boils down to Microsoft making Windows a crappier product. Short version. There's more to it than that. If you want the actual video, it'll be in the show. There's notes and all the fun stuff.
Yep.
It is an interesting video because I've seen more content creators going down this road. Wendy, there was a photographer you follow that's 600,000 subs or something along those lines. There's an audio guy, and his name escapes me, and I know who it is, but I can't think of it right now. Another probably 600,000 to a million subscriber count, give or take, like fairly large. There's other large gamer specific people like Ordinary Gamer, who he's got like 1 million subs. There's a bunch of content creators that I'm seeing going to the Linux end, and it is very interesting to see. As I'm an old fossil when it comes to Linux YouTubers and all this other stuff. So it's interesting to see coming from that.
Old fossil.
What? Well, we know you are, PewDiePie gives kind of his reasons about why he switched. Like, Wendy, you do a lot of editing within specifically Linux. What do you think as like an editor and content creator, whatever term you want to use, as an editor, why would you look at Linux as kind of more viable than say like a Mac or whatever?
So I was a full-blown playing with videos, or not videos, but photos and stuff when I switched over however many years ago. And I think it's only gotten better. I know there's a lot of people that say, but Adobe is burning a lot of bridges. And if you watch that video, even for PewDiePie, Felix, definitely burning some bridges there. And so I think a lot of people are realizing Yes, that there are some alternatives out there, and it kind of depends on your workflow. So for him, GIMP's fine. I have no idea what he edits in, but I would say that DaVinci Resolve is a rock solid editor on Linux, though it can be a bit of a pain. I know we had someone on the Textile forums recently who was asking, like, hey, how do I get DaVinci set up? So I shared a few tips there. I actually went to go check in on that, and it looks like the certification is down, Michael. So if you want to fix that, I can check on that conversation there. Haven't been able to get into the forum today. I've actually talked to him today and forgot to even mention that, but that's beside the point. So I think we have a lot of tools overall. Like Darktable does a great job. I haven't played with raw therapy in a while, but I know that that's been actively developed. And so for a lot of content creators in general, there is some really awesome open source software. There's some closed source software that's available that can be installed on top of Linux. And it just seems like to me, with some of the choices that Windows is making, the expense of the Mac hardware, which prices a lot of people out of it, and the fact that we have had Valve getting gaming on Linux, so making it more of a viable place to game, has actually helped bring a lot of software back our direction, making it actually easier to load it, to use it, even if it isn't native. And so it's just that little bit of extra attention that for some people are going, gosh dang it, this system, which happened to me like, I don't know, was it like 8 or 9 years ago, where I was like, this software is frustrating me. It's frustrating me to the point that I no longer want to use it. What's an alternative? And I think my favorite part of the people that are now switching recently is that instead of being like, I'm trying Linux, and really they're not actually trying it, they're loading it up, they're complaining all about it, but they're not actually like using it. A lot of the creators, like Felix right now, is saying, I'm in it, I love it. Yes, there's things I have to do different. Yes, there's things I've had to learn, but look at all the cool things that I can do inside of it. Is it for everybody? No. Is the distro I chose for everybody? No. But that's okay. You have all of this range, and I like the fact that they're enthusiastic, they're enjoying their time, but they're also entering it into a real world fashion. Like the choices I'm making aren't necessarily for everybody, right?
Yeah, I think the part that really stuck out to me was that new excitement that he was getting from playing with Arch, and like, you know, he complained about like how all his F keys weren't working, like 3 of them weren't working, whatever. And he says, but he wasn't angry about it. He was excited about the challenge. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you know, I used to be a little bit more like that, and maybe I need to be more like that more often.
Get some of that enthusiasm back.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's kind of like the walls are caving in. It's like, yay, we get to build something new. That was kind of the whole idea with him. And so I think that it was like, it was almost like a breath of fresh air, like an awakening, kind of a happy, such a motivating video to watch. And I'm like, I don't know who this PewDiePie guy is, but I want a little bit more of that enthusiasm that he's got. Like maybe have I lost some of my enthusiasm with Linux? Like, is there something that maybe I don't have anymore that, you know, that he has that I'm missing?
Just so you know, that's going to be a thumbnail. I'm just letting you know. You're welcome.
That's fine. It is. I need a larger one is what I really need. So actually, it was the SUSE sales rep they gave me.
Wendy, content edit.
I really appreciated just the sheer amount of enthusiasm, everything that he put into it, all little touches. And obviously the guy is phenomenally intelligent. Like, I mean, the fact that he knew to Linux and all of a sudden just dug into it the way he did, he must have some other technical knowledge and know how to accomplish what he did, like with the, you know, some of the special PewDiePie touches he gave to his
ASCII art that he was doing. Yeah.
So there's got to be something else in there. I don't know. I was really impressed. I didn't even think about, like, I wouldn't even thought about doing that, but I should make like a Cubicle Nate, my little logo thing in ASCII art. I should. I don't know why I haven't. I'll have to write that down. Anyway, so it was really exciting. And I think though there seems to be, it kind of goes in waves, doesn't it? A few years ago, it was Sebastian, Linus Sebastian, Linus, LTT,
Linus
that guy.
Yeah, from Linus Tech Tips. Yep.
Who, jumped into Linux and in a not so great fanfare way. And
there were positives and negatives to his review. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think he may have jumped in like with a blindfold and didn't really, which I've never done with any computer system ever. But anyway, I guess the point I want to get to on this really quick is, it's almost like, sometimes things kind of go quiet and I'm a little worried, when you have all like that bad news with the whole anti-cheat thing. Mm-hmm. And then like, things look a little bit grim. And then somehow, this Epic kind of turns around a little bit, and they got the plans for the Death Star, stuff like that. So I don't know, things are just good. It was really exciting to see. I loved it. And I need to recapture some of that enthusiasm, some of that creative enthusiasm that I think I'm missing.
To your point, Nate, the thing I loved was kind of that sense of enthusiasm for discovery. That's like a lot of why, like when you first, the joke about distro hopping and, distro hopperitis and all this other stuff that we joke about, it's actually a thing because it's a sense of discovery because you're realizing like, while certain people will say distros don't matter, all the distros offer something different. So you jumping around, it's not just about desktops. It's about the experience and the out-of-the-box experience or what you're looking for or the niches and all the other stuff. So that sense of discovery and all the different programs that, there are some of the most random things in like the AURs and the GitHubs and all that stuff that you would never think of using. So that sense of discovery is really refreshing to see. I found the jumping off point, like, I don't know how long it's been since he's, when you start in Linux Mint, you kind of just stay there for a while. It's like you find that stable thing that just works for you for a while. The fact that he went from here to, I'm using Arch, I did Arch the Archway for the install. You're using Hyperland, and then you're running you do a G Fuel ad for your video in ASCII art in the terminal as your advertisement.
Yeah, that
I do have to say that's probably my favorite ad I've seen run in a very long time. Like, absolutely, 100%.
Like, that is that jumping off. Like, there was a comment on a video that I did about it that literally it was, I never had in my cards that I would learn a system D command from PewDiePie.
Right.
Yeah, and I ran that after I saw that. I ran that because I was like, I didn't even know about that. So I ran it. I'm like, it's actually very interesting. There's not really a whole lot I could do to tune that. It is what it is on some of those things. But anyway,
But like, that's the point. Like, it's so interesting to see that level of discovery and excitement for a guy who, like, when he did that PC build, like, you can tell he's not at least a hardware guy anyway.
Right.
Might be a software guy.
Definitely.
I don't know. It could be Michael, like Michael and totally not hardware. So, like, he
definitely is not a hardware guy. That's 100% from the PC build. And if you haven't watched that, I recommend that too. It's also quite entertaining.
Well, because the joke that he makes at the very beginning is like, I'm sitting next to a computer that, well, I won't say the certain word, but it might blow up anytime soon.
Yes, absolutely. Talking about the one he built. Yeah. Yes.
I love self-deprecating humor like that. It's great because you're not taking yourself too seriously.
That's beautiful stuff.
But that sense of discovery is great, and seeing more YouTubers or content creators in general just going down that field. The thing when I compare something like this to, say, the LTT stuff, there's a different level. PewDiePie went into this expecting different. Like there's an open mind, a sense of discovery, a willingness to adopt stuff. Like, one of the things he mentioned was, I used to do Photoshop. But he's like, oh, I'll use GIMP. Okay. He didn't like the fact that the icons were different. So he downloaded an icon pack and changed the icons. Then he downloaded essentially a shortcut command for GIMP that makes all the shortcuts essentially the Adobe shortcuts. Like, you didn't get that with LTT stuff because it started out as, oh, I'm going to do this as a normie and try to game. Those were the two things that started out as, and the goalpost kept moving along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the other difference too is LTT made theirs as like the plan was to go into it for content, whereas the PewDiePie thing actually only came about as people are like, oh my gosh, I saw a terminal, tell us about it, right? And so the direction it came out was different. And I know another content creator that I follow that has switched to Linux. Yes, he is using his switch to Linux as part of content, but it's definitely done in a different way. I'm struggling to kind of come up with the words of how it's different, but it's not like, okay, I tried it and it's horrible and you should just stick with Windows. It's more of, yeah, I've tried it. This is some of the issues I've run into. If you're trying to follow me in this journey, like, this is what went well, this is what didn't went well, this is some of the stuff that was user error because that happens, and this was some of the things that just like may not have worked right on the desert. It's just a different way of approaching it as someone who is trying to test out Linux and thinking about coming over to it full time.
And let this be heard on a Linux podcast. We understand Linux is not for everybody.
Right.
And that's totally okay.
Nate,
Nate,
Linux is for everybody. They just don't know it yet.
Nate, what you talk about for Linux Saloon, you talk about Linux putting the personal back in computing, correct?
Absolutely.
You are totally right in the fact that it is still personal computing, so Linux is an option for that personal computing experience.
And I might not like my favorite option,
but I do
not like the other two options, so I will choose Linux. But at least I have a choice.
Yes. So, yes, that is something I absolutely believe. It does put personal back in a personal computer. But if you like dry, stale, kind of mushy crackers, I know that's kind of like a saltine that's been sitting out on the counter, behind something for like a couple of months and just it's terrible. Then go ahead and use Windows. It's fine. So, and this is just an aside, you know what computers and air conditioners have in common, right?
No.
So once you open up Windows, they're totally useless. It'll be interesting to see the what comes of this. So if PewDiePie does some more content around there, it'd be interesting to see like if he runs into other, because obviously the guy's intelligent. If he runs into other issues like with games that he enjoys, playing or whatever that he cannot, if he works through those, that would be really interesting to see from my perspective. I would tune into that, and then it's also be interesting to see like. So you said there were some other like random YouTube stuff that kind of came in my algorithm feed of where a lot of people like switching to Linux and that had done other content. I've noticed there's been a lot of that, kind of a flood of that in my feed, which is fun. Some of it's great, some of it's overproduced, but nonetheless, I've enjoyed a lot of it, and I'm interested in seeing how this is going to filter out over time. Are we going to actually see some real numbers, or is this just another fluke? I know Linux is up to like 4.5% now, 4%. I don't know, maybe it's gone down again. I have no idea. But it'd be interesting to see what kind of comes of this. What I also think would be very interesting to see, what I would be very interested in seeing is if this starts to shift maybe some of the commercial software out there. I mean, PewDiePie isn't the first person in these switch to Linux videos of people being fed up with the Adobe Cloud Studio. I can say for me personally in the enterprise space, I am fed up with Adobe Acrobat or Reader or Pro, whatever it's called now, the Acrobat Pro in the workplace, and I'm actively looking at moving off of that subscription model to an alternative, which is Linux friendly. And so I've got a test case right now going, and I think it looks like I've got full steam ahead on moving to an alternative away from the Adobe now.
Nice.
So probably over the next 3 years, we'll be done with Adobe. 2.5, maybe about 2.5 years. Less than 2.5 years. Anyway, probably about 18,
somewhere in there,
18-ish months, maybe closer to 18 months, 2 months, 2 years. Anyway, 20 months probably. So it's interesting to see, like, if this keeps going, will this start to shift some of the commercial software out there? Because people are getting fed up with the subscription models. People are, kind of tired of some of these things. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be more of a chasm, a divide, and there'll be different user groups out there. I don't know.
Well, it's always been that chicken or the egg situation, right? Where we're like, okay, we want to use Linux, but there isn't enough software available on Linux. And the software saying, well, we're not going to make it for Linux because there's not enough people using Linux. Is this the thing that like tips that? I don't know.
Yeah. And Nate, to answer your question, it's Linux itself is 4% according to, I think it's stat count for desktop.
Okay. Cool.
Is that like a current number, or is it?
Yeah.
Or is that like
no? It's whenever March 24th, March 2024 to March 2025. So Linux is at 4%. Linux is at 4%. If you add Chrome OS, it's another 2% essentially, so 6%.
Okay.
I would expect more from Chrome OS. I mean, I see them in like every school.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Again, if you want to talk about somebody who can probably has like, I'm not a big influencer branding person, but like if a dude with 110 million eyeballs on his channel and a small number to kind of sneeze at. The thing I think I like is there's an authenticity or realism, and that is something we kind of need when we want to quote unquote sell Linux more often. Is just kind of the realist and like not the over evangelized selling that sometimes happens.
Yeah, most definitely.
But to be fair, it doesn't matter what you choose. You're going to have problems of some kind,
regardless. Yes,
and, right. Doesn't matter. You can buy into the Mac ecosystem and go full on Mac, be Windows, whatever you want, and you're going to have problems. It's just which flavor of problems are the tastiest to you, I guess, is what it boils down to.
Yeah. I know, and I agree. Everything, it's all compromise. It's all problems. I think when it comes to Windows and Mac, they're known entities, so more people are willing to accept the problems and just kind of deal with those. Linux is kind of the outlier to a lot of the mainstream. So, well, this doesn't do it like Mac OS. Well, no kidding. It's different. Do you expect Windows to do the same thing as Mac OS?
Right.
The answer is going to be no.
Exactly.
Now it's your turn to toss in your 2 cents on today's topics. Hit the Discourse forum, drop us a line under this video, or on the contact form by visiting tuxdigital.com/contact. If you'd like to hang out with us on our preferred social media, see the links at the bottom of the show description. You can find other great shows like Pseudo Show, Destination Linux, and Linux Saloon, and more at tuxdigital.com. Show off your love for your favorite podcasts and shows by visiting the Tux Digital merch store. Grab yourself some awesome swag like the Gamer-Centric I Pause My Game to Be Here shirt, or join hashtag Team Wendy with some sinister Wendy swag. She's evil. You need to fix that. As always, we thank you for joining. As always, we thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time with another awesome episode of Linux Out Loud. Until then, keep the banner friendly, the conversation somewhat on topic, and have fun doing it.